Hello, so welcome back, guys. So today we're going to be working on the feet or on the legs rather. So let's bring out a reference for this. I think I have any specific. Okay, probably can probably use one of these. But there's nothing much. There's nothing complicated happening in there though. So we're just going to try and maintain the shape in its simplest form as much as possible. So and see if we can use other reference to help us get a better shape in there. I think I have mostly male anatomy references. I really need to get some female reference anatomy in here that we can work with. Yeah, this is a good one here also. We have some leg shape around here so that we can. Okay, yeah, this is a good one that we can be able to work with in here. Yeah, so some of it we can work with some of this. So let's get let's get right to it. It looks more of a feminine fit in here, and this we can actually work with. So I think most of the reference we need will be full. We can get them on here. We can use it's a piece for a male. So let's let's get started. Right. Okay, so I'm going to be picking. Okay, I think the first we need to do is to kind of talk about some of the shape in there for the leg. So some of the structure in there for the leg. Let's start with the top part. Let's look here. This is work for the top parts. Just looking for something a bit more simplified that we can hear. Something like this should be fine. It's very similar to that of a male's leg also. Maybe one of the major difference in there will just be the hip region. But for the most part, the muscle structure are most likely the same. So even if we're using a male anatomy for that, it's still something that is still transferable to a female body. Alright, so let's get to it. I would be using, let's start from the top. Something a bit more simplified. I'm looking for something a bit more simplified. Okay, this one looks exaggerated though, but I think you can see some of the major features in there that we can work with, that we can block out in our reference, in our main character also. Alright, so I like to get just let me just grab all of this, invert this. It's pretty much all we need, and I'll solo this out. I think maybe I'll need a bit more, so let me max out these parts, give that a separate poly group, and get something out like this. Alright, so I think let's go to them standard brush, raise this out a bit more. Now you can see this is actually a muscle structure around here. There's one around here, and then we have this muscle that kind of goes across all the way to the back. So we kind of trace that out. we should be having, it's not even, which side of the leg is this? Let's see if we can trace that with this. But you can actually see the depth around there. You can see this depth around, and you can see that shape around there also. We're basically trying to recreate that. So let's see if we can find a more simplified reference image that will kind of show us what we need to do. I think I actually have one. Yeah, I have one in here. So let's start with that. This one does not really show it properly as I would want it to. Not showing properly. I think I'm not going to use echo chair again. This one shows us a bit properly the muscle structure around there in a more simplified manner. So you can see this depth around there. So let's try and block that in with them standard brush. You can see it comes all the way from in here. So that shape is actually from around here. So we just, I think my brush intensity is way too high. Take this down. Then let's go across like so. And do that again. Cross like this. So what I'm going to do is try to kind of block out the shape first. No, I'm not doing that correctly. So it should be somewhere around here, like so. Yeah, somewhere around there should be fine. You can see it's around there. It does not go all the way down here, so it just ends around at the back. It ends somewhere at the back. So now let's go to the back. Let's see where that ends. Let's try to trace that all the way to the back. So it's not completely and entirely visible all the way to the back. So it's more or less like ending somewhere around here. You can see it ending somewhere around here, which in our case is still fine. I think somewhere around here should be fine, like so. But we're still in the front though. Let's go back to the front. You can see for a male structure, most of the shape are, especially for a muscular male, most of those structures are actually more prominent to see, unlike an average female character. They're not very prominent to see on an average female character. So that is why on this 3D scan, let's look for, okay. That is why on this 3D scan, you can see you can see that depth in here. You can see that depth more in here, but most of the muscular structures in the legs are not absolutely visible or very visible in the leg of an average female. So we're still kind of keeping that in mind while blocking this in. And since most of the character is going to be putting on, since most of this character is going to be putting on clothes that will cover the entire leg, so you might not need to spend too much time on there, but it's still good practice to kind of make sure at least those shapes are actually in there. So you want to try as much as possible to kind of make sure those shapes are actually in there. So if we should, what is our male view? So it's the same thing. Yeah, same thing. Okay. So one thing I think this should be more or less fine. I don't want to go crazy on here. So to already block that in, let's look for another shape we can block in also. You can see another muscle structure around here. Let me see if I can max that out with the max lasso. So we have like another muscle structure that goes around here like so. If you kind of figure that out where that what that is in its most singular shape or major form, So it's this entire, so I'm getting this entire mass in here. Though that kind of break up of different muscle structures in here, like 1, 2, and 3 in there. But if you should look at it as a single mass, you can see it's just one full shape like so, something like that, which for the most part we can just try to, let me just look for a better reference to kind of help us out in there, so we don't go overboard. So let's look for that a male character. Yes, so you can see the shape in here also. You can see I kind of forms a kind of S shape around there for a male character, because the let me go to the front. You can see how that single mass structure just maxed out here is divided into 3 parts in here, 1, 2, and 3. But for this female character, I'm not going to be making. I'm not going to worry too much about making it very intense. So I won't do that. Would just like to kind of get a shape on the side. This shape on the side, but it will be a bit faint, not too obvious to see. Something a bit faint. So I'm making it faint in there. Let's go back in here. Come around here. So let's figure out where that shape should be. So it's somewhere around here, like so. Like that. I'm still going to smooth that out. I'm just trying to make sure we kind of block those shape in properly. Okay, and then let's go down now. I think there's something I would like to get in. Don't think this one. Yeah, there's a most. Let me get this somewhere around here, like so. So obviously I need to smooth out this depth we created in here. So let's go to one subdivision level higher, and I will smooth out this shape we have in here, this depth. I'll just smooth that out. So we shouldn't be having something like that. Then there's a muscle structure around here, shape around here. So it's more like, let me just show you guys where that is. See if we can find a good reference for that. Science for it. Let's look for something. Where is that? It's not in here. Let me use. I think we should be able to see something in here. It's more or less like this shape around here. This shape around here. Let me see if we can find a better reference image for that. I think I'm really lacking on referencing here. Yes, more or less like this model structure around here. So let's say we build that on a bit more. So I'm just going to use the clay build up brush and just build something on here. We still need a bit more depth around here though. So let's get some depth in here, and I'll just gently smooth that out. So it's there, but not so obvious. Something a bit faint. But I would like to get a better reference that will kind of show us properly where that is and kind of muscle that is actually in there. Uh, Legs. Okay, you can see the shape around here. You can see the shape around here now. I don't know if you guys can see. It's actually kind of faint, but the shape is still in there. The shape is just blocked out now, so there's more or less like a dimple around here. So let's just get the dimple around here and smooth that out. Smooth that out. Use the clay brush. Let's now should give this an alpha or something. Maybe this should have some kind of alpha to it. Smooth this out. Get this muscle around here. Smooth that out. Something like so. Okay. But I don't want it to be too obvious, so I'm not going to smooth this out a bit more. Then I'll come to the side, I'll just flesh this out some more. Let's use the clay build-up brush instead. Now I'll just flesh this out some more, like so. Now smooth that out. Alright, something like this. Most of those parts is not going to be visible though, but it's always good to kind of have put some detail in there. So let's come down a bit. Let's come down a bit towards the new region. For the new region, we need to get some shape in there. I think we can use this is a female. Can't really tell anymore if it's a female or a male. Yeah, this looks more like a male. So, but still the same. It's more or less the same. It's more or less the same. You can see the new linear. You can see the shape around here, which is what we have. So we turn this to the same view. It's more or less the same shape we have around there. This muscle that kind of connects all the way like so. So let's just accentuate that a bit more. Let me take down the smooth intensity and then smooth this down some more. Okay. There's something in the shape, there's something for the nail. Let's make sure we get that nail properly. So it looks pretty much something. Let's look for a better example. Look for a better example that will clearly show us what we need to do in there. So first things, first the front. Where is it? Okay, yes. I think this is a better this is a better example. So you can see there's like a separation in between the nails, so in between the kneecaps. So we need to kind of block out that shape, but at the same time keeping in mind that where is this looking for is a particular reference I'm looking for. Where is it? Where is it? Kind of looking for the bone structure of the front. Yes, something like this. You can see how the bone is not completely like we're not getting it's not just a straight line. You can see how the shape goes like so, like so. So keeping in mind the structure of that bone and then making sure we're kind of creating what we need to create in there. So for the separation in between the kneecap, I'm just going to get something on. I think I need another reference to better illustrate something more or less from the side view. Something more or less from the side view. Yes, something Do something pretty much like this should be fine. So let's start by going to the dem standard brush and then kind of get this kind of S shape separation in the middle, something like this. So the reason why I'm doing this is because if you look at, let's see if you can find, yes, if you look at this shape in here, this is the front. It doesn't look like the front. Looking for something that's kind of facing us front view here, something like this. Look at this shape in here. It feels more like an S shape going on in there. Feels pretty much like an S shape going on in there. So if you look for another reference, so you can see the shape now, more or less like an S shape in there. More or less like an S shape in there. So, but keeping in mind that for this female character, it's not supposed to be too intense. You just need to have something in there that kind of breaks up the shape a bit more. Now go down like so. Down also on the side. Okay. Just marking out those shapes properly. Now just smooth that down. Just smooth all of those down a bit more. So it's not too aggressive or too obvious to see in there. Just something a bit light. Just smooth this down also. Then we're going to break it up a bit more with the clay build-up brush, so it doesn't feel those lines we created in there are not too obvious. But I'm still going to be using let me use a scan reference for it instead. I think a scan reference. I don't know if it's a male or a female. This particular one looks more like a female. Looking at how soft the shapes are, looks like a female. Personal. I'm not too sure if it's a male or female. So this one definitely looks like a male, kind of nail. This one looks like a female because it's more soft, it's more fleshy. There's more flesh to it compared to that of this one. So I think I'm going to be using this as my more or less like a main reference for it. So let's flesh this out. So I'm going to be using the clay brush, I think, and then just flesh this out a bit more. Now just do a gentle smooth around it. Just do a smooth. Sorry, rather, just filling this up a bit more. Okay, let's get some depth in here. Smooth that out. Right, so I think that should work. And that will work just fine. So, so let's go down. I think we have so much depth around here. Smooth that out. I don't want it to be too sharp, so something like that should be fine. Let's go to the lower part of the legs. So keeping in mind the bone structure in there. So this our main reference. This base sculpt is quite good. It's quite good. Kind of have all the shapes in there that we need to. Yeah, this is the more simple. This is even a more simplified version. It's even a more simplified version. So we have this bone going across on the side, more or less like a bit more diagonal, not completely straight. If you use a real world if you use like an anatomical reference for this, you can see this bone around there going all the way to the back. So which we already have in here on our reference image, on our base sculpt rather. So you might just Let's see, we just try to intensify it a bit more. So I'm going to be using the clay build-up brush and just get from the side, just kind of get something that goes across like so, something like this. And I'll just smooth this down on the edge, smooth this out a bit more on the edge. Okay, something like so. Smooth this down a bit more also like that. For the most part, the front part of the leg is quite good. You might not need to be doing so much in there. You might not need to do so much in there, because you want to get some soft shape around this. Let's just move all the way to the back. Let's move all the way to the back. No, better still, let's start from the side. So you can see the shape from the side. You can see how the muscle structure is a bit slightly more obvious on the side. So with a shape coming across like so, let's make this a bit more obvious. Now smooth this down, something like so. All right, yeah, something like that should be fine. So just kind of get that shape in there. You can see a separation around there, around here. So if you look for a reference that kind of shows us that from the side view properly, so we can actually know what is in there. This is the shape here. If you look at it from the side, which we actually kind of blocked out from the side. Okay, it's actually there. So we go to this. This is the bling material. With the bling material, you can see those shape. You can see the shape a bit more clearly, which we have already blocked out. So I'm not going to be doing that again. So I already blocked out that shape in there. So the only thing you're supposed to do on the side view, apart from this fit though, we'll get back to this fit in a bit. We'll get back to the fit in a bit, but for now, let's just work on the leg. So let's go to the back of the leg instead. So we have some shapes, we have some interesting shape going on in there. So we have this shape going on in here that goes across like so. So I'm just trying to show you guys that in there before we kind of start blocking out any shape around there. So but this is for a male character though, but it still work for a female character. So we have this muscle structure in here. So but before we carry on, I would like to show you guys another. So I always like to show you guys different reference image so we can be sure that we are doing the right thing in there before moving on. This is the back view for this. So let's use so you can see this shape around here. So you can see like we have some kind of separation in the center around here, and then we have these shapes going around here also. So I would, though with the flesh on top of this, it kind of looks slightly different. That is why we have, because based on this reference now, you can see how the flesh kind of covers most of it, and it's looking slightly different. But most of these major shapes actually, most of the depth in there actually in there. So let's just kind of accentuate them a bit more. So no, the standard brush is going to accentuate this line a bit more, like so. Smooth that. I'm not smooth it out yet. So let's look for the other. Let's use the other reference. So I believe you have a shape going out. I think we need to smooth this out. Smooth that out. So I believe you have a shape, you have a muscle shape around somewhere around here like this. So around here like so. Let's see what else we can actually block out in in there before moving on. So we have another shape also around here like so. Then we have this shape but we've already blocked out from the side. Already blocked that out from the side, so let's just leave that the way it is. Maybe just add that secondary shape in here like so. Then I will just smooth this out, just smooth them out. Let's get a decent blend around there. So it's not too obvious, but at least there enough for us kind of know that something's actually in there. So if you go to the kind of zoom out a bit more, you kind of see okay, this is actually in there. I like to flesh this out even more around here and smooth that out. Alright, a bit better. So now I have this shape in here at the back. So I think that one should be a bit more obvious. It's not too obvious in this character. Not so obvious for that character. It's quite okay, okay. Let's use this character instead. It's for a male though, but it should work for this female character. So let's just get something. No, with them standard brush. Let's just get something like so. Something like so. So is this shape coming all the way to the back like this? And I missed that. Let's move this out. Let's get something like this. Oh, this stuff I just did now. Let me just show you guys. Because I want to make sure if I'm not doing it correctly, I'll just erase that. So yes, you can see the shape also the way from the front to the back. That's basically what I'm just trying to do. So you can see the shape around here. So and I'm just going to zoom out. Okay. So I'm just going to use the clay brush and then just build something on here. Maybe the standard brush and just dig in here a bit more. Use the clay builder brush and then just build something on there. Not too much though. You don't want to go too. You don't want to be too extreme in there. It doesn't look like a male kind of leg. So I'm almost cleaning it out completely, almost. So, but still not doing too much, so we don't kind of erase the traces of it in there. Okay. Some more smooth in there. Then we have a shape around here. Just carve something around here. Smooth that out also. Kind of, I'm seeing like some small trace of shape around there, sort of elevation around there. So let me just do something similar. And I'll just smooth this out. Right, I think this should be just fine. Should pretty much just fine for what we need it for. Gonna create some kind of depth around here also, and smooth that down. Let's get some more smooth intensity to it and smooth that down. Right, so this should work just fine for what we need it for. Smooth this down a bit more. Okay, so in the next lesson we're just going to uh this bot, let's see, let's get some shape around here, smooth this down. Right, let's go one subdivision level higher. I'd like to do something a bit more interesting in here, so I'm just going to come around here and then add another separation here like so, and then build underneath that with the clay build up brush. I will just build some kind of extra fat tissue around here. Take down the smooth intensity, smooth that down. Smooth this down a bit more. Seeing I don't getting, let me smooth this down a bit more. I want a smoother shape to it. Yeah, something pretty much like that should be fine. Perhaps look for a better reference image and then just use that instead. So I'm basically trying to create this depth we have in between. I see depth in between. Maybe I should do that in a lower subdivision level. Probably in lower, it make more sense in a lower subdivision level. And I'm going to use the pinch brush, just tighten this up and then just smooth a bit more. Probably flesh this out and smooth. It's not going to be visible though. Let's just leave that the way it is. I think that should be fine. Should be fine the way it is right now. Okay. Like to get this. This is not even going to be visible. I don't know why I'm spending so much time here. This is not going to be visible. Okay, so in the next lesson we're just going to go down and then work on the feet itself, because like I said initially, I'm not going to be giving this character any footwear, so we need to make sure the feet are looking correct. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next lesson. So bye for now.